And in this episode, I'm going to show you a little rebranding project I'd done. But to give you the backstory here, back in 2023, I attended a webinar that Daniel was hosting called Becoming Oversubscribed. And during the webinar, I noticed that some of his slides could be improved just because in terms of him as an influencer and as a key person of influence, I noticed that his slides could do with a bit of improved design just to bring clarity to the message. And I thought there was a bit of a disconnect between the slides and some of what he was saying in terms of the webinar content, the content being so valuable, but the slides not giving the same impact. So wanted to improve them. And in this little document that I've made here, it's kind of like a little mini rebranding project, kind of what I would do if I was working with a client. Usually I do this as a conceptual stage, and I take somebody through the ideas behind the branding or the design. So as I've talked about Daniel before, I won't go on, but if you aren't following him on LinkedIn, I do recommend you check him out and check out some of his books. Daniel is someone who really understands the pitfalls of entrepreneurship, and his brand values for me are honest and approachable communication style that really sets him apart from other entrepreneurs out there. His brand tone and language is direct and straightforward, authoritative and approachable, and down to earth. And if you've listened to Daniel's ebooks, he narrates some of the ebooks, and Daniel's voice is really soothing, quite pleasant to listen to. So I enjoy his voice in audio content, and it's a really approachable style, as I've said. And for the target audience here, we're looking at solo entrepreneurs, business people, and small business owners, as well as content creators. So this was the existing brand that I found on Daniel's personal brand. This isn't his company website, but the color scheme is very similar. So this kind of dark navy with the red and gold. And for me, I think the red is a bit too overpowering. And I wanted to have a look at how I could prove that. So I looked at some of the recent LinkedIn carousels, and again, I noticed that I wasn't hugely keen on the red. Whilst it does stand out and it's quite bold and punchy, too much red can actually symbolize danger. And I'll talk a bit about color psychology in a minute, but this was the existing brand colors from royal blue, this reddish pink, and a trusty gold. And whilst I don't have any major issues with this brand color scheme, I wanted to improve it and make it better. So just to clarify what I was saying before, when you use too much red, it can be a bit overpowering. And in this case, this LinkedIn graphic, I personally think the red here is a bit too much. It's harder to see the information on the right hand column just because of the red and the white. They don't go together so well, and it makes it more difficult to read. And as I said, too much red used can actually give us a feeling of warning or danger. So I wanted to change that and to make it easier to visualize for diagrams and visuals as well. So these were my refresh brand colors, and I went for this royal blue and also the authority orange, but kept the dark navy for consistency with the previous branding. And this was my attempt at Daniel's personal website, just to clean it up and make it a bit more approachable, a bit more friendly in terms of him as a key person of influence. And to make note of his book, I added some trust signals by adding the websites and logos that of places he's been featured, including Diary of a CEO. He was recently on Stephen Bartlett's podcast where he was interviewed about his knowledge, and I think that just adds kudos to his message and social proof to really hammer home the point about working with him, that he is a key person of influence and somebody you would want to work with. And again, I've cleaned up some of the buttons and just make the overall UI a bit more approachable. For the carousels, and this was some slides that I took screenshots of. This was back in 2023, so these may have changed now, so I'm not making any judgment on the slides, but at the time I saw these and I wanted to make them better because I thought they could be a lot better. So this was my V1 take of the design, which I wasn't too not happy with, but I wanted to improve it, so I did a second version which is using the orange color scheme, and I went with this kind of new font which is based off kind of a sports kind of style. But I don't actually like the sports style now. Looking back at it, when I look back at this design, I think, well, maybe that wasn't the right choice, Ilya, because we as designers often go back to our old work and think, well, I could have done this better, could have done that better. It's just part of the way creatives think. But you know, sometimes in the moment you can always think, I could do this better. But as I said, it's been a bit of a pet project of mine since 2023, so I've been refining it. So this was my V3 attempt, and I want to show you now V3, and this is what I did with V3. I kept it a little bit more simple. I changed the some of the stock image to make it a little less funky and a bit more approachable, because again, when I thought about the target audience, these are entrepreneurs, business people, professionals, and I didn't want to make it seem too silly. I wanted to be, you know, have that professional sense to it. So for some of the imagery, as you can see here, I just chose some bit more human, a bit more approachable stock photography, to really just kind of, you know, place the idea of somebody who wanted to be oversubscribed, who is an entrepreneur, works for themselves, to get that kind of feel in there. And also, you know, keeping some kind of bright and impactful imagery in there as well. And choosing imagery is probably one of the hardest tasks of your presentation. I'm not going to go into too many tips for them for this video here, but I will touch on that in future videos. But you know, you want to think about like using colors that are in the branding. So in this lady's image, there's some blue in her clothing, and it relates to the blue, the navy blue in the brand. Here, this image has kind of an orangey tone to some of the elements, including the watch, the book. So it kind of fits well with the orange as well. So that's just a little tip there. And at the end of the presentation, now I can't stand when presenters end with thank you, or, you know, thanks for listening, or just end of presentation. You need to think about what steps you want the audience to take next. And I always encourage my clients to think about what the audience will do as an action at the end of the presentation. Now, it doesn't have to be a sales pitch or a call to action. It could just literally be a question for the audience to think about after the presentation is done. Maybe a thought to leave them with, or an idea to mull over when they are about to go to bed the next day after the conference is over. But in this case, I thought if somebody's coming on Daniel's webinar, they may want to download a free copy of his book. Sometimes he gives his book away for free. And also just to ask the question, are you ready to become oversubscribed? What's the next step for you? Maybe take a copy of my free book, or maybe it's check out some further free training, or to take one of Daniel's quizzes, which he's fond of from his app scorecard, and then find out what your results are. So this was just a really fun little project. As I say, this isn't a client project, just a mock design, what I might do if I got the opportunity to work with Daniel one day. And Daniel, if you're watching, and if you like this design, you want to talk to me about it, I'd be happy to share my insights with you. And yeah, stay tuned for next Tuesday, or the Tuesday after, should I say, because it's bi-weekly. I should remind myself not to put pressure on content creation. But yeah, thank you again, guys, for tuning in. Let me know in the comments, like, which design did you like best, version 1, 2, or 3? And I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you all again soon. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you found this video of value. And if you want to create stunning looking presentations to create more impact, you can check out some of my templates, toolkits and guides, which are available on ilyapresents.gumroad.com. I have some free ones available, as well as some PDFs and templates that you can use to make your presentations look stunning. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time.